Hello, everybody. We're live. um, we're back. We took a break on Friday just to clear our heads. Been working on a few ideas. I worked on some stuff. Ryan worked on some stuff. So today we're gonna try to bring it all back into the stream and see what happens.
Yeah.
So let me know when I should bring a tab in.
You can do it now.
Okay. So just summarize a little bit where we are. So we're trying to make a better ChatGPT UI client as a way of exploring how to make ChatGPT write code from requirements, basically. So the one thing that we hit, the barrier we hit, is the number of tokens in the code. So basically, when the code becomes too much, we can no longer send it over and get it back effectively in one sort of go, right? So then we are forced to sort of either send bits of the code or get back bits of the code or whatever. It gets complicated. So what we sort of have seen is basically that the effectively the code when we do it like we did it, which is basically stacking prompts on top of prompts. So basically, we asked for a thing in the beginning, and then we kept asking for more things to be built on top of the original. What we realized is that this is kind of contingent, right? It kind of depends on what the LLM does in what sequence and what you ask for in what sequence. And then you end up with something that you can't fully explain. I mean, you could start to try to read the code and optimize it, but that's the thing we're trying to avoid. But when you just sort of are carrying the code through, maybe making targeted corrections here and there, you end up with a lot of sort of craft. So we spent some time on Friday talking about how to avoid this problem, right? Because if you can't avoid this problem, the amount of code you can write from scratch and keep it sort of active is fairly small. So what we decided to do is, I mean, we decided to take on a few different approaches. What Ryan worked on is one that is kind of fascinating to me, which is basically to launch our little UI and then launch a sibling to it that can talk to it. The idea being that those two can become specialized in doing different things. So let's say you have one that can talk to the large language model and one that can talk to GitHub. Now you have two code bases, and those code bases don't necessarily have to sort of share, share the entire code base, right? One can remove some bits, the other can remove some other bits, and that means we now have two loosely coupled agents that can communicate with each other and can improve each other in some ways, and they can also sort of cooperate, and each one individually stay under the limit of the kind of 4,000 tokens or so that we wanted. So so Ryan here is showing us how this works. So you got 3 tabs now, basically.
Yeah.
So which is can we see the main one?
Yeah. There's a bug with the holding message on the second one, so we'll have to fix that.
Okay. So what did you said at sibling hello, and the spawn tab said hello. Back to you. No, is that wait, can you I can't follow what's happening. So it says response from spawn tab.
I'll start out the demo, restart the demo.
Okay.
This is a little tricky because there's actually, do you see this prompt that I enter?
No.
Okay. It's a browser dialog. That's why. So I just created 3 tabs. I've got sibling and sibling 2. So now here I am over here. I'm going to say at sibling hello. And it logs the message. And right now there's just a dummy function. This double layer header is annoying. I'm going to fix that too. But you
Well, there's a
talked.
few things, right? Because then if you see in their internal dialogue, you have to be able to. It has to be able to reclassify as like other tab and me responses should
Right.
be me.
Right.
So there's that. But the important thing to show is that the other sibling, does not have anything in its conversation, right?
Right.
Right. So then if you go back to the first one and you talk to the second tab,
So now each message, I have the hello and the original sibling and the hey there and the other sibling. And I see it. I should see it all right here. But we have
okay,
that bug.
all right. So, and even if you refresh it, the siblings are still there.
Yeah. Which I contemplated actually having it. In fact, it should be doing this. Should be checking the opener and basically closing itself if the parent closes. But I didn't really prioritize that. So yeah, basically we have basic cross-tab communication independent of the parent-child relationship tree.
Oh, so sibling can talk to sibling too.
Yep. So
Can we see that one?
I can say sibling to.
Yeah. So basically, for anybody watching, the upshot of all this is that we get a pretty nice programming paradigm that is basically reusing the functionality we have to include anyway, which is a chat functionality, in order to do cross agent, let's call it, communication, right? So the reason we went with this is that it's not too different from other paradigms on how to do this sort of thing. Like, the Erlang language has similar models, much more mature than this, but we get to do this in a way that is sort of transparent to the end user. So, and also using the machinery we're already developing, so we don't have to build, or include a whole other piece of machinery. But honestly, I mean, to me, it is legitimately great to use the same abstraction, because then you can imagine the user doing this, right, where they are addressing different components with different capabilities. You can imagine adding all sorts of different ones. You can have a Google, you can have a dictionary, you can have whatever you want, really. You can have a plethora of these kind of models. And again, we don't pay the cost of increased amount of tokens in the main code base, which was our fear. So we kind of get something for nothing. After we hit some critical mass, basically, we get something for nothing, which is cool.
Yeah. I think,
Well, I don't know if nothing is the right word here. By the
yeah.
way, you know what else is going to be cool if we pull it off? Which is, it's that if you make these changes, right, and then go to some other LLM, maybe even the 16K GPT-3 LLM, and you say, here are 3 code bases, right? Can you give me a skeleton that is sort of can adopt modules to do these 3 things, right?
Right.
It can actually build you an abstraction now where uh, it can accept modules for each function, and the skeleton itself is separate, which again gets you even further down the line of like, okay, am I improving the skeleton now, or am I improving the module, right? And you can do those things separately. You got your loose coupling for free, and you can keep at it.
Okay. So I don't know, how much coding have you done with GPT for today? Just out of curiosity.
Not much.
Okay.
Why do you ask?
I'm getting another sense that it is degraded pretty badly. Like it's giving me functions back that don't have any changes in them, or just completely whiffing the point. And I'm trying to figure out if it's just Is
I
it?
would say do the thing that I figured out earlier today, that it's probably worth for any prompt you try to first tell it to ask it, like, do you understand this prompt, and do you have any questions that I can clarify for you? Is it the second time, even if you address the same tab?
Yeah.
Okay. By the way, the other bug we have is that the regenerate thing doesn't actually stay there
Yeah.
upon replacement.
Regenerate is forked.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it just disappears, so you can't do it. What I'm hoping is that if we can suffer, like, because the bug fixes, like we've got bugs in the data model, basically, right? Where we just sort of have all this unorganized code, and I kind of want to like shed off the parts that are working well right now into their own modules, and then like basically wind up with an index that is like the core of what a module is supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then hopefully that will be small enough that we can do a couple rounds of refactoring without,
Yeah.
without GPT getting distracted by the code that has to deal with git commits and shit like
Right, right. So, just for anybody watching, so the idea is, once we get this sort of specialization approach working, is to shift as much of the functionality you see here into these little agents, right? I mean, you can imagine like formatting and linting being a different agent than the main one, right? Or whatever. And basically, that should allow us to drastically reduce the amount of code that we have to work with. And again, by then going horizontal, we can even create or auto generate abstractions and whatnot. But for now, we are just trying to patch some bugs up. Basically, this whole thing allows us to go a lot higher in terms of tokens. So now we're at 5,600 or something, which is pretty big for a token. But in the knowledge that we can shed a lot of this code into its own little thing, or little things, and get far under the 4,000 limit again. What do you think?
so this is a sort of an example of what I'm talking about, right? Let's walk through this code. This is the cross tab communication happens with storage message events, anytime you set something in local storage, it triggers an event on all domains. So you can use that to pass messages between contexts, right? So okay, so far so good. If the event key is a message, then parse the value, and you get the tab name, and so it says okay if it's a user message, meaning it was something that like came from me, right? Handle the incoming message. Great. Um, and I know that this is where the bug is because this is the bug I fixed in the context of request response from the LLM, right? But it's still existing in the case of request responses from other tabs. So it has this naive approach where it just tries to like pop a holding message off the stack, right, rather than looking it up. So what it does here, like the first time, and for whatever reason it always does this, it tries to put the fix in the handling of the user message, which is this is the code that handles an incoming request from a user in a background tab, right? Which is obviously not the right place to be holding that, because this code is being executed not in the process where I'm encountering my bug at all.
Mm-hmm.
So now I say no. The problem is when handling assistant messages, and now it kind of gets there, right? It says, okay, find the one with the matching user message ID. Except the message ID is not the right thing, and then it creates like an if else where if it has the holding message, it removes it, which I guess that is appropriate, because I forgot that remove holding message replaces it.
Right.
So this is actually not horrible, except for the fact that I've got this lingering message ID thing, which is kind of infuriating.
When you say lingering message ID thing, what do you mean?
Well, so I in order to get this to be more robust, what I wanted to do was, instead of just having an incrementing message ID counter, I wanted to generate a UUID uniquely for each message and associate a holding message with the request that created it, so that when the response comes back, you always are positive you're getting the right one, right? But now we've got sort of two notions of a message ID, and I've pulled my hair out to try and get it to help me remove references to the old paradigm, and it has trouble. I think it just gets lost in the weeds of knowing which to use, so it just sort of vibes its way to one or the other. So handle incoming message.
So are you going to use this then?
I'm going to use a slight modification just to get us out of this crappy well.
Okay, explain to me again what's happening. Why isn't it seeing the problem?
I don't know why it's not seeing the problem.
Right.
But it's just not, right?
So okay. Oh, by the way, we asked it to ask you questions, and of course it didn't, because our system prompt says
Right.
send functions. So maybe we can start there if you want.
Yeah, I'd like to. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Get this done. But again, I think, yeah. If we want to improve our game, part of the story here is that we're forcing it to return functions when.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So. Excellent. All right, so that's committed. Just want to wait for GitHub to catch up. So what I'd like to do, right, is I've got this commit function. And I'd like to put it in github.html.
Sorry, say it again.
I've got a commit function here. And I would like in the github.html file, I would like it to respond to @ messages by invoking that function. Right.
Okay, sorry. Let me come back to the tab. Okay, so you've got what function?
I've got this function that commits to GitHub, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to be able to invoke that function from index.html by sending a message to github.html.
Mm-hmm.
Current goal. So I am here in github.html, which is currently identical to index.html.
Well, but so this is the thing I was talking about. Instead of doing this, why not just allow for JavaScript functions to be executed, right? Because if you could just say literally like commit, and here's my message, and here's my file, and here's my content. So imagine something like at GitHub at JS, commit open paren open squiggly.
Oh, and it would just eval that string.
Yeah, but I mean, again, it's not the most elegant, and we can improve upon it. But also, it just opens up everything else, so we don't have to keep like asking for one-offs.
Okay. Okay, so then we'll go back to index and just say
I don't know. You want to call it at JS? You want to call it at console?
Well, I mean, you want it invoked in a certain context, right?
What context?
Well, in the context of the tab that has that commit function exposed.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like the nested at, the idea is that it unwraps, right? Like, so if you say like at GitHub.console, that is the console of GitHub.
Okay.
That's how I'm thinking about it. I'm not claiming it's the most elegant thing in the world. It just, probably would work.
Yeah.
You basically, and what I'm saying to be super clear is that it, it should trigger recursive execution without particular, sophistication of the code. So you basically, it will post the message as it always does.
Mm-hmm.
But by that message being at console, then that triggers a secondary process. You see what I mean? If you strip out the first app, then the second app becomes primary, and when posted to the other message history, it
Right. The problem is I don't think our handling is going to do that. Right.
yeah, we can improve that, but otherwise,
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't know.
I think this. I think if we limp our way to shedding the complexity, that's something that I think goes into the core of what is it to be one of these agents, right? We're working our way towards like an abstract class of what's the seed crystal that all of these things are going to need, and I like that as being in there. But I worry that if we try and pile that functionality on right now, we're not going to get there. So I want to shed out at least just the raw ability to do the GitHub stuff with what we've got, so that we can remove it and then remove some other stuff and remove some other stuff and then be left with the core functionality that we want to refactor. Is that right?
Sorry, tell me again.
Well, because I think the thing you just described is a heavier lift than you're imagining right now, because of the contingencies of how the thing has been built so far.
Can we make it simpler?
Well, I think the existing complexity of the sum total of the code will get GPT confused in trying to refactor it towards what we want. If we want to unify those models of like, here's your input, here's your output, everything gets processed the same way, right? So I think if we can, by to quote one of your phrases, by hook or by crook, just get enough shit off the table that's not part of that paradigm, then what we'll be left with will be much easier to reorganize into that elegant paradigm, rather than trying to perform the refactor while we have all the other functionality as cargo.
I guess I don't understand why it's complicated. Like, okay, if the way I described doesn't work, how about you adopt bookmarklet? Like, do like at GitHub space JavaScript colon and then blah, right? It should be able to understand if a message starts with JavaScript colon, and it should be able to just execute it as a bookmarklet,
Sure.
which should be able to reach all the functions.
Sure.
Is that easier?
Yes.
Okay. Like I'm just pushing on this because it's very generic functionality that, I mean, the moment we have that, we can start deleting buttons, for instance, right? Or whatever. Like we can, because here's the, dirty secret of all this. What was it that we saw? Like 2,000 of the, 5,500 tokens are HTML, right? And a lot of that is just buttons and fields.
Yeah.
So if you can just, at least for now, shed those and just have them accessible via code, you can get a lot farther, and then maybe you can add those later.
That's odd. That is bizarre. Sorry. GitHub Pages takes a wildly variable amount of time to update in response to new commits. It's quite something.
Say it again.
GitHub Pages takes a wildly variable amount of time to update the site in response to new commits.
I don't know. I mean, if there's some better, place, we could do that, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
I think what would be nice is to encode functionality that actually confirms that in the background, so that you don't have to check, like kind of polls or whatever.
Yeah.
But what are you gonna do? Let me see if this little robot arm can be convinced to come closer. Come hither, little robot arm.
Oh. All right, so we've got a root and a child. Child, JavaScript, alert, hello world. Hey, look at that. Result undefined. Child, JavaScript. Return 42. Legal return statement, huh? Cool.
That works?
Yeah.
Very nice. Now try to invoke its functionality.
Okay, so all right, this is going to be wild. At child const.
You need JavaScript colon, but you can put it in column
Oh,
in
yeah.
the. Does it need it to be in separate lines?
It does because I have query params, but we can gut that if this winds up being promising. We can change that back. Okay, so const file equals index.html. Const message.
Ryan, can you describe to the LLM what to do to invoke the child the right way?
One thing at a time, man. Okay. Man, just one thing at a time. Const contents equals.
No.
Ooh. Fuck. Wait. Oh.
Triple backtick and then separate line for /source.
No, can't do that because source. That's my entire point. Is that source will bundle the triple backtick, but equals.
That's a different backtick. I'm not talking about triple backtick. I'm talking about triple backtick.
What?
Okay, fine. One backslash and then source. I don't know. Okay, I see your point.
No, it's contents. It's the initial HTML because I'm committing it from the child. The variable's already in scope.
Got it. You want the child to commit its own code?
Yeah, well, the child has it. It has. I just spawned it from the code I just changed.
Got it.
I will not always want that, right? I will want to be able to pass in, but we'll just. All right. Here it goes. Fucking nothing, I guess. Holy shit. Oh, you can't see it, but I can get the confirmation in the child tab. Successfully committed the content to index.html.
You didn't think it would work. You just didn't think it would work.
I mean, I thought I'd have a typo in there at least, right? Nothing ever works on the first try. Okay, so here we are. So we need to be able to pass. We basically need to be able to pass variables into the JavaScript that we're going to run into in another context. How can we do that?
Say it again.
Well, so let's say like I need to be able to pass a variable in this context.
Like source.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say the first stupid thing that comes to mind, just in case it triggers something better. But you could try to template the thing, right? So you could do like squiggly local variable.
Yeah.
What else? Sadly, I think that's kind of the thing you're looking at because you're looking at two nested execution environments, basically, right?
Right.
So somehow you have to refer to your own. Yeah, the first one has to. Okay, slightly better template literals. where you basically give yourself code that is templated to do the substitution and then send it? Like you basically, here's a way I would do it. Basically, you declare a local. You know what? Actually, maybe Lodash can be simple here. Is useful here. Can you just go and check in the Lodash docs about the templating engine? It has like a super tiny templating engine that does mustache style templating, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. What if? Sorry, I had another idea.
Go for it.
Yes, Lodash. What if you solve this problem by going around it? If you have what if you basically just use local storage again, right? You run some JavaScript locally to set a something into local storage, and then when you're executing something in a child context, you just fetch it from the same key.
Well, that's kind of what I'm trying to get at, right? Like what I'm describing is not very different from that. Is that you have to have a local JS agent, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you can invoke. And in my version, you would give it a templated version of the code for it to flesh out and execute and send as a message this time. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Now you might do it through local storage or not, but in any case, unless you want to open up your own console, you have to have a way of sending a code that comes to you.
Actually, yeah, you need to be able to write JavaScript for yourself as much
Right.
as you. Right.
By the way, I think if we do this right, we can get rid of the /source stuff, which tends to break and is fragile.
Absolutely.
So that'll be nice.
Okay.
Right. It's like I mean, in a perfect world, it would be like writing a meta message, right?
Right.
Like you can imagine it. You can imagine writing a message that calls another agent, gets the response back, puts it back into the message, and then sends the message as if it was you. Like Grammarly agent, for example.
This is so weird. Index.html still does not have the new code from 2 commits ago. GitHub.html doesn't either. Oh, so we're a little bit stuck. So bizarre. One second. I'm just going to try something. Oh no. Oh, it totally didn't work.
Ooh.
It committed, but it committed undefined.
But that's interesting. Why would it do that? Could it be a typo?
Variable name.
Yeah. I mean, you got log. You got a log if you have that page open still.
I do not because oh wait, yes, here we go.
Go to the console and see if that's actually a thing that you can reach.
Yes, it is.
Wait, so try to eval the whole thing yourself.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
I mean, you would be better served by having semicolons everywhere just in case the spaces weren't properly processed, but before the const, for instance, there.
Content. What did that do? What? Message file content. Just gave me this weird. Oh, son of a bitch. Yep, typo. There we go. It was content, not contents.
Oh,
okay.
We're looking for errors in all the wrong places.
Yep.
Undefined.
No, it finally picked up the last commit.
Yep.
So at least it'll be really obvious when it's synced up
now. So there was a slowness problem as well.
Yeah. Oh no, there's definitely a slowness problem. I've noticed that. But we can keep working over here.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably worth considering. Like, is there a way to have a local GitHub proxy /cache that you can sort of nudge forward into the future? You know what I mean? Like that when you commit, it kind of gets it.
Oh yeah, could you like? I mean, we could build a service worker that fetches from the raw endpoint, rather, because like GitHub Pages sort of expects a bunch of like Jenkinsy shit to happen, right? Because it wants to build a blog, right? But we're just dealing with raw HTML, so we could fetch the files directly from the repo. So if we had a service worker and hosted PWA, the service worker could just redirect everything to the raw repo endpoints.
Or our index could be that service worker, right? That's kind of a default thing that we don't actually touch. And it acts as a menu of sorts for the raw ones.
Menu. So basically I have a launcher.
Yeah. Again, we could write that and it wouldn't cost us anything in terms of the rest.
But you couldn't. Visiting the raw ones they won't get served as HTML. So
but that's what I'm saying. You have the launcher that you could give it some URL, like it could be like, I don't know, like hash index HTML or whatever. Like you can just give it a pattern. But that could also help encapsulate the other functionality we wanted with the branches, remember?
With the branches. Oh, in terms of like being able to create an indent.
Like being able to address branches via your page, GitHub page.
Yeah.
In fact, it will be needed. So, but basically, initially we were thinking to bundle all of that code in our thing here. But what you're describing is this idea of a launcher. It's pretty great because it can just avoid all that.
Yeah. There we go. All right. Back in business.
Actually, I just thought about something else cool a launcher could do. No apostrophe.
Oh God, always. Since I was fucking 8 years old, I'm at that. My epitaph will have an "it's" in it, with the wrong apostrophe.
That's right. That's right. He died serving the country and its people with an apostrophe.
Yes, precisely.
Look, in Greek, you have to put accents on everything.
Yeah.
Which is fairly intuitive because it's like you put an accent on the syllable that you pronounce.
Yeah.
Every word, you don't think about it, but think, right? Well, think is monosyllabic. Whatever syllable, right? It's syllable. It's not syllable or syllable, right? You could. So in Greek, you just actually point that out by putting a little line on top of a little accent on top of the vowel of that syllable that is pronounced. But I just never learned to do that.
Sure.
So like I write, non-standard Greek, and then if I have to, I can do it, but I have to think about it. And it would piss off some of my friends to no end that my Greek did not contain the appropriate accents and stuff. So frankly, I don't know how I got through school.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel you. Sometimes I feel like my English, grammar and minutia is better just because I learned it
formally,
explicitly. Yeah. I mean, I kind of learned half. was a lot more immersion and a lot less, explicit stuff. But compared to native speakers, definitely a lot more explicit instruction. So I can refer to stuff like, that is factual knowledge for me that I just got later.
Yeah.
Like spelling stuff. It's like, no, this is spelled like that, and it's like, because I know, like, it's one of the things.
Yeah,
Whereas
and you remember learning it, right?
yeah, exactly.
It's not just something you picked up. Speaking of things picked up, I swear to God, until this weekend, listening to the RFK Rogan episode, I was positive that the chemical in Roundup was called glyphosate. With such confidence that I was waiting for Joe Rogan to correct RFK for a solid 5 minutes before he started calling it. I'm just like, wow, that's embarrassing that they're both saying it wrong. And it wasn't till a day later that I finally looked it up to find that I was the wrong.
What'd you think of that? What'd you think of that pod? Knowing we're on YouTube as well.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to declare that vaccines are safe and effective.
Of course.
Let me just ask GPT for the proper disclaimer.
They effectively do what they do.
Before
right?
I answer, yes, they very effectively do what they do, and they are safe for the people that make them. They are the safest technology in the world.
I mean, they're as safe as they are, and they effectively do what they do.
Yes,
I feel that's a true statement.
Watch us get taken down for that. For that little lighthearted moment. Watch him jump on.
Truth hurts. What can I say?
Okay, cool.
This should be the universal workaround. We should whenever we say, vaccines as safe and effective as they are.
Oh yeah.
Right? Because I mean, you could read that several ways.
You ever heard the universal Reddit response?
What's that?
Oh, I got to look it up because it's so good that I need to get it right. The universal Reddit comment. Oh, come on.
It's so good it doesn't exist.
Reddit. I want to say it's on Reddit Museum.
See what the autocomplete is.
People know this. In the history of Reddit, someone came up with a universal Nothing. Damn it. It's basically the universal comment is just like you have just contributed nothing to the conversation, and you're an idiot, right? But it was phrased just so on the nose that you could literally just paste it anywhere in Reddit, and it's just perfect. Anyway, back to work.
Anyway, so yeah, what did you think?
Uh, I thought it was interesting.
Different,
Different. Uh,
interesting.
it makes me want to fact check it.
Yeah, tell me
Right,
about it.
like because I mean, he cites a bunch of papers, right? He tells a story of factual events in history, um, and so our de-spinner algorithm could probably even do something decent, especially now with functions being accessible to the LLM, right? If you give it access to Google, like, go through this, get the fact, find the citation, dereference the citation, compare the citation to the claim, you know,
Yeah,
churn through that over 24 hours and see what it spits out.
yeah. I mean, what it will spit out at best, at worst, is, well, like, okay, the
Something
things you're
shorter
expecting to
for
catch
us.
there is that the citation does not support the claim, right? That's bad, because it's not narrative dependent. That, right? If you cited a paper that doesn't support make his case, then you got a problem. But if he does, then you have made marginal progress, because then the question is, does that paper, is that in good standing, basically, with
Right.
the community? So what's going on here? Oh, you're adding the local.
Local eval.
I like it.
No, you don't.
I don't like it.
You don't like it. Unless yeah. Failed. Okay. We're gonna try one more time.
You know what would be really nice? A delete message capability.
Yes.
Can you stop before you send it?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you add a line underneath? Please ask for clarifying questions if something is not clear in the above, but modify the system prompt to allow that.
Yeah.
Or maybe we can
I
add
can
that.
modify the system prompt to do that.
Yeah. Pum 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 pum.
Right.
Let me.
Pending. Did I lose you?
No, I'm here. Did it give you a bunch of code back?
Yep. I'm just reviewing it for the same bug. Yes, this looks much better. Still might be wrong, but doesn't set off by. Oh, right. This function doesn't exist. Why am I trying to highlight it? Cool. So
The next attempt is a message that is a message.
one second.
Maybe a template literal. Oh, I see. I like that you're just passing them as constants. You don't want to do variables, right? That would be bad.
Oh, instead of the const instead of var.
Yeah. Isn't it local storage get item?
Yeah. Well, I have a get and set function that I was gonna see if I could use.
You know what I was thinking? instead of models, like we should make a thing where even if we're using Vue or something, where the entire model is just permanently on local storage, just by nature of existing, you know.
Right. Yeah. You'd like create a proxy object for everything, and just
Something like that.
Yeah.
So you don't really need to think about it. You know, you might need to think about how you dodge it if you make, you know, multiple versions of the thing. But otherwise,
Let's see. Did it do the thing? Very nice.
worked.
Yes. All right. So now. What do we want to do? Do we want to strip away everything that's irrelevant from the GitHub commit function?
Do you want to try the thing I described with the template literals instead of going through local storage, just in case?
Sure. Okay. So walk me through it.
So the idea is you wanted to write a function that returns the following.
Okay.
Going to do JavaScript colon function, no arguments. What? Jesus, dude.
GPT-2. So
just parens, I guess. Like whatever, just an IAFE, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and then a return, I guess. Template literal, like backtick, I guess. Like how do template literals even work?
I don't know.
Oh, come on.
I mean,
okay, so do at GitHub. What was the function you want to call? Commit.
Yeah.
Okay, commit.
Let's just do a hello world.
You want? No. Well, okay, fine. Okay, well, okay. Forget the at GitHub then. Do $ open squiggly. Inner HTML. I think that's the. Yeah, so this should be the replacement for source. Well, if you.
Oh, no, initial HTML.
Ah, yes.
Nice.
Yep. There you go. So, that's source. And then you can do something equivalent for calling GitHub. So you don't have to go through, putting
So
jumping
okay,
lists.
so you're saying I got it. So JavaScript.
Again, like we could
So
create a
we need
shorthand
the
for all this.
response to then be interpreted as a message itself, though.
Yeah. That's why in the beginning I was said like do at GitHub.
Right, but that right now that'll just.
Okay, let's do it properly. Yeah. So open up. Okay. So then say at GitHub. No, JavaScript colon.
Oh yeah.
There you put initial HTML, but that should be one of the arguments to the commit function.
Right. So you do the const
Yeah.
message.
I mean, I wouldn't. I just do commit. Yeah. Commit open paren. I know you don't like it. It's fine. This is throwaway code.
Something like that.
Do you need a? Why are you escaping that stuff?
Well, because your inner HTML is going to have backticks in it. So if you template it into that string, it's like.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
This strikes me as something that's going to choke.
It's not. No, because it's not. It's once it's doing a replacement, it's already parsed the backticks. That's not going to interfere with it. I don't think. Yeah, I would put no backticks and no backslashes.
Okay.
Whatsoever. Yeah. So commit does not take a JSON object, does it? I thought it was just 3 params.
Nope, it takes a JSON object.
Okay. Are you sure? Yes. What? No. That's not. That doesn't go in the. That doesn't go in the.
This is not octo-git commit. This is our internal commit. Message file content.
I got it, but you're putting a file inside the template variable.
Oh yes, I am. That's right.
Yep.
Something like this.
Do you need also the to put the another open close paren at the end? Or no, because it's just a that might work. No. You need to open that paren then if you're gonna close it.
I did.
Oh, I see. Got it. Yeah. I mean, I think that works. I don't know.
Yeah. So the response does not get interpreted as a message. We can have it be.
Sorry, what's the response? Did you actually get it to do it?
Well, this is the response from layer 1, right? It created this is the template string that it created.
Let me see it. Let me see the response.
It's everything I'm highlighting.
Yeah. I just want to see how it starts. Because it says result.
Yeah, but I mean, oh. This won't go through the same pipeline though.
I see. Well, it kind of should, I think, in general.
Right.
Yeah. So let's fix both of those things. It shouldn't say result, right? And it should also come through the same pipeline. Now, if you want to clarify it, it should not say assistant, right? It should say console, for example. But other than that, I mean, honestly, you should say user, right? Because it's a message from you. Like if it's sent to the that's actually that's the thing. That will fix your invocation problem as well. This is a user message. It's not an assistant message. Right. Now, is it strictly user message? No, because it should be a console message, but there is no such thing as console. There's system, assistant, and user. So of these three, I think the right actor is user.
Right. So the question is, so in theory, so you want to treat the output of a JavaScript message as itself a JavaScript message, or as itself a message that then goes through the processing loop again. So we got to be careful because I can see that turning into an infinite loop really fast.
You can write infinite loops with it, but it doesn't have to.
Right.
But yeah, we're opening a pretty powerful hole, which is kind of the point here, right? Like we want to be able to use this as a general purpose interface so that we kind of like replace a bunch of functionality that exists.
Yeah. Sorry, give me a second. I need to grab some water.
Yep. You back?
Yeah.
Are you back?
I'm back. Okay. So trying to think how to phrase this request. Oh shit! I need to handle message. Excuse me. So we want messages from the user when they return anything to be then sent through the pipeline again, basically. So how do you determine when to exit the pipeline, I guess, when you return something that's not a JavaScript message?
What do you mean exit the pipeline? Oh, because it's a...
Right. So like if I
Well, I guess, I mean, look, for the purposes of this, can you just make it invoke send user message?
uh maybe, yes.
Though we're not using dependency injection, right? So it's actually using a lot of implicit params here. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a problem all of its own.
Right. That's where I was getting, where this is, that implementing it this way is going to be more hairy than we'd like.
I see.
And that's where I was getting at with, like, I feel like if we can separate out all the chaff, right, then we'll be left with the core bit of spaghetti that we actually want to get a clean abstraction for, and it'll be a lot easier for GPT
Yeah.
to help us get it.
Look, I hear you. The other thing, however, that we could do here is to ask it to give us a dependency injection compatible user message send message function that we can then ask it to replace and use. Right? We can basically do a local refactor. I wouldn't say to do it just for this thing that I'm trying to do now, but I think it's probably going to be a good refactor overall. So I don't know. Up to you.
Yeah, I'm skeptical of GPT's complex refactor capabilities right now.
But that's what I'm saying. This is not a complex refactor. Like you just say, give me a function that is send message, but with explicit arguments, right? Called, I don't know, message send.
Sure.
And
Like I did with commit, right?
I don't. Is that how you did it?
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever. And then you can shift the use, right? Wherever send message is used, we can use the other one, then just delete the original. But we okay. So let's recap a little bit. So I showed you a way in which we could do the GitHub commit without going through local um, storage, or at least I showed you a way that we could potentially do it. But you have demonstrated, I think, sufficiently for the moment why that's not as easy as I thought. So fair enough. Yeah, and so your method works better right now. So I don't know. What do you want to do?
I'd like to get commit functionality into its own page.
Okay.
So that's sort of the driving star, and I think that could be the win for the day, right? Is to have the commit functionality absent from index.html.
Okay, and all GitHub control functionality.
Yeah. So we know that we have it.
Well, what we can do, right, is have the commit button do that thing that we did.
Oh, yes. Lovely. So first, want to
honestly, maybe the best way to do it is to start there, right? Start by making the commit button, run that.
Yeah.
And then we move towards gutting the existing functionality out.
Right.
And then on the GitHub side, you're going to rip out all the LLM code. Is that the idea?
Yes.
Huh. Okay.
So
yeah, the more I think about it, the more the fundamental functionality is being able to talk to the JavaScript console, and I think that one should be retained by all variants. As they say in virology, it should be a highly conserved region. I'm sorry. This was a lab leak joke. I mean, it's accurate, but anyway.
I need the send message function immediately anyway to do the other thing. So that's good. Nudges us one step further. Oh, how nice. Okay. Oh, okay. This is a mess, but that's okay. Let's see how it does this. We might have to do this more piecemeal because it's kind of more complicated than it sounded.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay.
Where'd you go?
I realize now why you were not responding to my very intelligent comments. It was because you could not hear me.
That would do it. That would tend to lead to that.
Yeah. I mean, it's the only explanation my ego will permit. So I think we're going with that.
So here's something.
Yes.
Pretty confident this works or will work, but this is a decent amount of code. It might even be as much code as our commit functionality itself.
Well, I think the easier way, or at least the more productive way, is to create enough. I mean, this is why I was kind of talking about Lodash, for instance, right? Because Lodash has. Can you? Okay, maybe now you're more open to the thought. Like, can we look at Lodash templating for a second?
Yeah.
It's at the bottom, I think. Can we see some examples?
Yeah.
Okay, it's using. It's not using Mustache. It's using ASP style template. But the point is, it does that. I mean, now that I think about it, is that better than template literals in any way? Probably not, huh?
No, we can. I don't. I don't think that's actually my problem here.
What I'm trying to get at is like you want the invocation that you're trying to do to be shorter, right?
Right.
And I think what you're doing going through local storage is reinventing several wheels.
Yeah.
So the question is, how can we avoid reinventing those wheels? That's how you reduce the size of that code. So an approach similar to what I was describing. Well, I mean, the first question I have for you is like, why are you launching and closing a tab every time? Like, shouldn't at the very least it be um, checking to see if the tab exists and use it and then not close it?
Yeah. I mean, checking to see whether the tab exists is complicated. Um,
Uh, I mean,
it's not so much. Oh, well, it's not complicated. It's just I'm trying to avoid going down a yak shaving route, right? Where
okay,
we, in order to do this feature, we need this feature, which needs that feature, which needs the other feature.
got it, got it.
Um,
Okay, so
right.
fine. I mean, I don't like it, but fine. Um, so let's say we keep the whole ephemeral tab thing. Um, the intermediate bit is still several lines of complicated code, right? When it could be or should be really one line, which is a templated piece of code that starts and then writes something that gets sent locally as a user message with substitutions, and then reaches the other side and gets executed again, right?
Yeah.
So these are the. I mean, look. On the one hand, does this work?
We can test it right now.
Okay. But even if it does, like you've got something, but that something is quite complicated, as you rightly noticed. So, yeah, I think the thing I described is probably a lot smoother, but it requires you to do a bunch of things in a bunch of places, right? Um, so it's kind of up to you, I suppose. But I totally would go that direction. I would try to make it possible to write a template, literal, um, and have it be sent as a user message on my end, get to the other side, get executed again, and get the response back.
Yeah. All right.
And really, all those are user messages. So in principle, you could even have 3 layers of JavaScript execution. If you see what I mean.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Let's go for it.
Okay, so the first thing you need is that the code stuff should be sent as a user message, not assistant, and you want to strip out the result.
Code stuff should be sent as a user message. Right. So if input starts with JavaScript, okay.
Can you make the JavaScript calls be posted as user and not assistant
Yeah.
to start with? That seems like a minor thing, but very
Yeah.
important.
Wait. This works. I'll be amazed. Oh, right. Results. Heyo got it, but did not respond. Interesting.
Who did not respond?
The other tab. Replace is not a function.
Sounds like a bug.
Yes.
What's happening?
I'm looking for instance. It's from the showdown stuff to render the message, but I can't find. Well, maybe I can't.
Have you considered telling the LLM about it?
Yeah, I suppose.
Okay, and I will sell you on my idea of a launcher a little bit more now.
Okay.
You're still trying to solve it by hand?
Yes.
Why?
Because GPT has been reliably shitty about bugs like this.
I see.
It's also a bug in progress code, right? Because it's only like I changed something to try and implement this feature, so it's in the new stuff.
Are you sure?
I mean, it only appears there. Or not.
Yeah, no, it seems to me like the problem that probably existed for a while, but we haven't, like, it may have been popping up in other places and, like, yeah. I don't know. The feeling I get is that it's something that
yeah, I got introduced somewhere. Okay.
Yeah. It's EI.
Okay, sell me.
So we can have this launcher, right? And I think it can do a few things. So number one, it can launch all the agents on demand, right? With some query string. Number two, it can launch branches. But number three, we can teach it some shorthand syntax. In fact, we can load into it some capabilities that all of our agents require, so that the agents themselves don't have to carry them around. So it can be like a, yeah, like a, basically we can, the thing I was saying before, that when we learn something about how these apps should be structured, there should be a way to like get it out of the way and just have it happen.
Mm-hmm.
This is that, right? And then again, when you are revising the code, like here, right, you should be able to tell the launcher to run it. So again, the launcher is kind of like an intermediate layer between you and the browser that helps you do a bunch of things, and it's nice, cleanly separated new project. We can start from scratch and kind of have it work well, and we can remove a bunch of the functionality here, simplify the markup. I feel at the least it'll save us 1,000 tokens and be and bring in new functionality. That's my pitch.
I like it.
And the thing is, like, it could be there, like it's almost like a conversational development adapter in general for GitHub, right? If we did another project like this, we would probably want that as the index. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Here's my pitch on why GPT-4 has gotten nerfed again. Because its solution to this problem was just to cast undefined to a string.
Cast what?
I mean, the root cause of this is that this message data.content is undefined in the path for some reason. Rather than like figure out why that was, it's telling me that the solution is just to cast that undefined value to a string. So
right,
the error will go away, but the bug will remain.
Right. Maybe tell it like, I don't want the bug to be there at all. Like, I actually want the. Yeah, but I hear you. Can you check our params just in case?
Yeah, I've tried every variable.
Oh shit! You're using 0314, dude.
I've tried all of them. I'm saying, like, I've been through this today.
Well, I'm telling you that you're not even using the previous version. You're using the previous version right now, this very moment.
Right. I have not noticed significant difference.
Okay, but all I'm saying is you are definitely nerfing yourself with that.
Well, I am, if the presumption that the newer models are always better.
Well, let me put it this again. It's that same thing. If you have made a change and the change does not help, then by default that is a bad idea. You like, there must be a reason you're doing something.
Same thing.
Okay. Do you want to maybe ask it why that is not available or something?
Why? What is not available?
The thing it's trying to reach, which fails. Sorry, and what temperature are you?
0.4.
Yeah, okay. So, what's the time? All right, fine. Okay. I want to show you a little bit where I am.
Okay.
As well.
I might park this and work on it into the evening and do some other cleanup too.
Okay.
Because I think I can fix this. It's just
Yep.
working in my brain.
Cool. So, let me show you this thing. I'll zoom in a little bit because that is not going to work.
Yeah.
This is better.
Much. That's perfect.
Excellent. So basically, what I did, right, is I Oh wait, what? Why? Oh, huh. Weird. There we go. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay. So I've got this pretty complicated piece of prompting here, but basically, it kind of just has like I kind of went all out, right? I'm like, this is what I want to do, right? And I grew it, say, should enable interaction, no server needed. The key and the token should be entered by the user in the interface. What is it? Settings, keys, and as much conversation as possible within browser limits should be persistent local storage. What to do, this, like if browser specific limits are reached, drop earliest messages, right? This is the stuff that it asked me about that I clarified for it.
Right.
The application should offer users the ability to export and import the entire conversation history. Timestamps should be included in messages. API errors should be treated as assistant messages. And the errors themselves should be displayed to the user as part of the conversation, including a variety of different scenarios. This is actually this is badly worded here. Anyway, users should have a way to clear their local storage. Should make it easy to send the whole client-side code base. Users may request all sorts of improvements. Conversation history should be sent only to the point where the context window size is set by the model allows it. The GPT tokenizer module can help measure the number of tokens per message. I mean, very specific stuff, right? Like this is how to figure out the context size for each model.
Yep.
ChatGPT should be assumed to be friendly in that it will not send back deliberately harmful code, because it was like, oh, what if it sends back bad code and stuff? I'm like, yeah, that's not really the fascinating observations, but no. And then here is the stuff where it chokes, right? It should make it easy to safely and automatically apply that improvement to the client code base. Anyway, there's a bunch of stuff here. Some stuff on architecture. And then the facts are basically, I'm just explaining to it how OpenAI API works and how the GPT tokenizer works.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I'm like, please articulate any questions you have about these requirements and whose answers can help with implementation. No disclaimers, get on with it, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, for the user interface, are there any specific details you want? Blah, right? Who cares? When you mention requirements, sending the whole client-side code base to GPT, how exactly should this process work? Should there be a button or command the user can use to trigger this action? Regarding the code improvements provided by GPT, how should the system handle these? Are they to be automatically applied, or should the user have an option to review and manually apply them? These are very interesting questions, right? That demonstrate that it actually understands what's going on.
Right.
When a user wants to change the model, should this change apply to future messages only, or is the need to reprocess previous messages? Whoa. I hadn't even thought of that. Could you clarify more the intelligent merge process? When exporting conversation history, what kind of format are you expecting JSON to be in? Should the self-tests be run automatically at specific times? Regarding the GitHub committing feature, what should happen if a merge fails, even after blah? And okay, yeah. So then I was like, okay, well, tell me your answers to these things, basically, right? Anyway, long story short, this is what it does. Now, the next thing I would do after I'm done sort of milking it for ideas, right, to improve my spec, I'll show you what I did in the early versions of this. Where is it? It's probably in the very early versions of this. Yeah. So basically, I don't know which one is going to be useful. Oh, yeah, I don't like this one. I don't like this one either. I stopped it. Let me show you one that is more meaningful.
I wish you could star branches.
I know, right?
Right.
We should make our own UI.
Blackjack.
What?
Oh,
there we are. Yeah. So check this out, right? So I asked it to do this, right? And it gave me this structure. I mean, it said for the JavaScript part of this, so this isn't even perfect. But it has all these stubs, right? You see it?
Mm-hmm.
And then I can say, fill this in and fill that in and whatever. The problem I found is that if I use our original fairly minimal requirements, it can nail this.
Okay.
Right, which is cool. Like, because you basically, if you think about it, you don't have just one response. Now you can get like 4 or 5 responses worth of code because you get the main bit and then the 4 or 5, different functions filled in, right?
Yeah.
The problem is that as the complexity got bigger, the architecture suggested got dumber. Like, where was it? Like, improve code base, Okay, thanks, guys. What's that going to do? Fetch code base from GitHub, send it to the Lily LLM for improvement, and apply the improved code. Yeah, okay, fine. I mean, sure. But basically, that's what drove me to do this, which is about effectively getting a better spec. And then what I'll do is I'll ask it. I mean, I can ask it now to do that, actually. We can see how it works. So instead of saying ask me questions, right, I can say please elaborate on how to turn these requirements into a functional code base. What considerations must be taken into account? EDC. right? And so you basically get it to, instead of like just immediately coding it, you can be like, um, yeah, you just get it to think through what it wants to do, right? Oh no. Oh, not exceed. Sorry, that's good. Okay, and then you're like, does this satisfy all requirements? Yeah. Anyway, so then I could say, do the code, but all in all, my thinking is very much sort of motivated by this sort of situation we're looking at here, because I think our degree of understanding the code we've written, well, our degree of understanding of GPT and its code generation ability should be equivalent to how much we can make it run with this process well, if you see what I mean.
Right.
Like, unless we can do that, the rest is kind of finagling, like, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
just us kind of nudging it in non-scrutable ways. Um, I think for instance, this little launcher that I described, it will be a great example project to try and build this way, right?
Mhm.
Because it's probably small enough to do the job, and um, then we can continue evolving it this way through our editor, by the way, right? So you can actually get our editor to load it from GitHub. By the way, we should probably build that feature as well, right? The ability to load a project from, like, or at least a file from GitHub to edit.
Right.
Because even if you want to change GitHub now, you won't be able to do it by itself, right? It'll have to go into the main one, which means that the ability to open another file is important. Yeah, I don't know. Do you have any immediate thoughts that pop to mind?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before. I like the idea of coming back to a spec that is continually like updated to reflect the desired code end state, right? And then have some sort of automated process, right, that gets you there. So I'm happy to see this working, right?
Sorry, I just thought something about the launcher that is relevant here. So basically, the one thing that you could do by having that code with the functions is write tests and functions, right? Like, you can actually get that very developed sort of subsystem generation routines going. But what I just realized is that the launcher itself can test things,
Yeah.
right? So one more time here, we have a situation where this launcher can be a conversational development assistant for a bunch of reasons. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
No. I mean, the um, coming back to a stable spec, right, that is then iterated on when you want to change functionality, I think is critical, right?
Yes.
And it's encouraging to see the ability to break things down actually, showing promise, right? I think the trick is with like the stub generation is hitting it at the right level of stub specificity, if this makes sense.
Yes. Very much
Right,
so.
where because it's like there's one end of the spectrum where it's just like trivial, so like, oh, congratulations, you broke up one big function into four smaller ones, like, great job, have a cookie. And at the other level, it's just like, here's a stub function that is basically equivalent to run your program, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's app, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be the thing that breaks, the thing that makes it gives us headway is figuring out what the context independent process is that will either on one shot or in several shots.
Yeah.
You could do it recursively, right? Like start you. I'm thinking something like you break it up into steps, and then for each sub step you break that up into steps, and you almost like run a tree of thought algorithm on it until like the buzzer goes off.
Yep.
And when the buzzer goes off, hopefully you have a fully cooked program.
Well, yeah, that's this is why I started the questioning stuff, right? Because the first step I think with all of this is to have a spec that where it doesn't have any big questions.
Yeah.
Because if it does, right? So for instance, here when I told it before, let me go back a little bit for you. In this version, right, when I told it like, tell me your confidence, right? So basically, I said, provide me with your suggestions for these questions, as well as your confidence in their correctness, right? So confidence high, confidence high, confidence high, confidence high, confidence medium. Okay, medium. It's got one. Yeah, let's say this one, right? This is probably like we should be able to get to a place where it has high confidence in everything, right? And if it doesn't, either continue editing or like break out into a subflow where we make a module to do the thing. You know what I mean? Like, so at least you get to the place where it understands all the bits it needs. That's one thing. Okay, but understanding is not necessarily coding, right? And again, I think we can probably like limit it on the lower bound of like, you need the base case, right? Of like, look, if you can just write the code out for the whole thing, just do it. And then on the upper end, you want to say, I mean, what do you want? So at this point, you would have limited it on two sides, right? Like, if you don't understand what the fuck is going on, like, ask, right? And if you understand it so well that you can just like pop out an answer, just do that. So then you are kind of in the middle, and maybe that is not enough of a bracketing, right? Like maybe it'll give you, as you say, like these functions that do very little. But I'd like to see that. I'm not actually sure, because if you give it enough response tokens, right, it very well might be able to just do it. What I see is dumb code back, but I'm not sure if the dumb code is because it doesn't understand what it needs to do. And it's so, it's kind of like the functions are not there because I asked it for functions. The functions are there because it doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, that's how the first level of all of this, I think, will work out. I think asking it for tests on the top level and so then the other thing I would do actually on this level is I would ask it to write end-to-end tests, perhaps even first, right? So that will be test-driven development on this level
Mhm.
of like, write me a test suite and then fill it in, sort of thing. Right? Like, yeah, you know what? That actually might work. So the first thing you ask it to do is to write you an end-to-end test suite
Mhm.
and then fill it in with an interface. See what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that requires it not to just to have the code, but to actually have an understanding of what the code should do and how it should do it. It's like an end-to-end test suite is like a user story, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably the next thing I'll try. Okay, so I really have to run to the boys' room, so I think it's probably a good point to just sort
Sure.
of
Yeah.
put a pause, and we'll continue tomorrow if nothing else pops up in the meantime.
Yeah. I'll get as far as I can this evening.
All right. Well, thanks everybody, and yeah, it's cool, right? That I think we've broken through some sort of a barrier, and I'm excited about trying to make the launcher with that approach. I think that will. I like it because it both will get us to try this new approach while not stopping progress on
Yeah.
the thread we're on.
You're right.
Um, and I think that was the big fear we had, right? We were like, should we start over or should we,
Mhm.
continue? And I think this kind of gives us both, right? Because if the launcher works, then we have experience and we can sort of see what else to do with it. But if it doesn't, then um, we could just do it somehow differently or whatever. But it's like it's synergistic with this. We basically are like drying up our existing code to the point where if there's some hairball somewhere, which there is, um, it'll be easy to refactor in one go, basically.
Yeah.
I
like
think
it.
by shedding modules on the way on the lower level and by shedding boilerplate on the upper level, the only thing left is going to be the core logic,
Yeah.
and then it's going to be a lot easier to untangle. All right, cool. So great stuff. Let's keep going, and I will see you tomorrow.
Sounds good.
Thanks, everybody.
Cheers.